From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome. 50 years after, actors in the Biafra War speak on the deadliest civil war, seek unity and reconciliation, just as the Southeast Group holds Thanksgiving service asking that lessons of the era be imbibed for national development. Civil society organization SERAP approaches the court to demand publication of details and breakdown of payment of pensions of all 36 state governors, ex-officials and former governors. Benue and Nasarawa state governors meet over security of the North Central states, ask the federal government to reconsider the withdrawal of troops of Operation Railstroke. And Iranians take to the streets to demand the dismissal of senior officials culpable in the downing of a Ukrainian passenger plane that killed everyone on board. Plus, we have some sports stories. It's 50 years since the end of the Nigerian Civil War, which lasted for 2.5 years, and lessons are being drawn on the sad outcome of the conflict, which had the present southeastern region of the country as its theatre. The head of the federal government at the time, General Gowon, has been reflecting on the war and says some of the mechanisms his government put in place were not really followed up by successive governments.
Unfortunately, after the change of government, with the program that we have, which was going to allow them to be able to be equal in all respect, unfortunately, yes, those that came probably did not have the belief and the philosophy that we have. That my government have in order to ensure fairness to every part of Nigeria. It got to the stage when this Constituent Assembly statement was became almost a threat to the breakup of Nigeria. We had to do something, to remove, that what causes that fear. And politically, I thought the only thing that we should do was, to create, to break up the, all those regions, and to ensure that, no region and now new states would be too big to be a threat, to the unity of the country, and the fear of the fear of that domination by one particular state will no more be a threat. And so that was that became the new states, that the new Nigeria that we wanted to have.
Former head of state General Gowon. In the meantime, for another head of state, all the efforts made to reconcile Nigerians in the aftermath of the Civil War, which ended 50 years ago, have had limited impact because they were not consistently pushed by the authorities. That's the view of the former military president of Nigeria, General Ibrahim Babangida. General Babangida, who fought in the Nigerian army during the almost 3-year battle, told Channels Television's Ladia Keredulu on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that initiatives such as the NYSC and the Unity schools set up across the country after the war are excellent, but needs to be consistently pushed to achieve their objectives.
The unity, we saw it from fighting to remain united. We didn't do much in trying to get people to indoctrinate them through political interactions and the rest of them. So the moment you reintroduce politics, the first thing that came to our minds were what political parties and political system used to be before the Civil War. You saw that as a starting point. And once you see that, you could hardly change it. The example you gave earlier about NYSC, unity schools, and so on and so forth, I think we didn't push it hard. We should have pushed all those harder so that you don't have people can sit down and say we met at unity school together. And these are people from different parts of the country. So they have no problem in interaction. They don't revert back to their cocoons and say, this is where I belong to. If I went to school with you, Ladi, okay, yes, he was my classmate, he's in Lagos. I have no problem going to Lagos because I know you are there. And neither, the same thing, you too know that you have somebody in Mina with whom you went to the same university or did NYSC together or secondary school. I think we allowed it to slacken a little bit.
For the full interview with General Babangida, do watch Newsnight tomorrow, Monday, January 13, 2020 at 9 p.m. only on Channels Television. In the meantime, some frontliners in the civil war are still nursing their wounds, and this is from the aftermath of the bloodiest conflict ever in the history of Nigeria. Some of the disabled war veterans who were resettled in Enugu State want the federal government to come to their aid, as a good number of them have died owing to poor living conditions. Our correspondent in Kuruka Ajogu has this report.
It's been 50 years since the Biafran War, also known as the Nigerian Civil War, ended. One of the bloodiest conflicts ever witnessed on the African continent. Today, we are at the disabled Biafran War veterans camp in Oji River, Enugu State.
77 disabled Civil War veterans were resettled here in 1975 during the Okpabi Asika military regime. But at the moment, only 12 are left. Some died, while others were reunited with their loved ones. Those left behind live in very unsavory condition. This tap last gave them water 40 years ago, and power supply has become a luxury. Sylvester Ibuna was 20 when the war broke out. He joined the Biafran army and fought to defend the Biafran cause. The war took its toll on him, as he now, with an amputated leg, battles hearing impairment. To keep body and soul together, possibly raise 100,000 naira, which, according to him, is needed for his hearing aid, he has taken to begging for alms by the roadside.
When I sustained this injury, it took me 4 years before I could hear again. When this shelling began, my leg was almost blown off. I tried to stand, took the first step, and then another, but I lost balance and fell.
As far as he is concerned, not much has been done to promote reconciliation and rehabilitation.
How can I forget the past in this condition? Hunger is a disease. I have no food to eat. I will always tell my children this story for the sake of posterity.
Yes.
Gideon Njoku was 18 when he fought in the war, and at 71, the pain still lingers.
When our colleagues returned from Christmas, some started begging in Oka and Onitsha. They promised to pay us some compensation. They even asked us to register for it, but nothing has happened since then.
I have not received 1 naira from any organization as regards the war we went.
Apart from from taking care of their personal needs, other issues of concern include a holistic approach to address the causes of the war and reconciliation that will put to rest the issues of marginalization. From Enugu, Nkiruka Ajogu, Channels Television News.
We'll have more on the Biafra commemoration later on in the bulletin. And a bit of politics now. A week after his State of the Nation's address on the enemies of Nigeria, the senior pastor of the Latter Rain Assembly, Pastor Tunde Bakare, is back on the podium again. This time, he sheds more light on what he meant by asking President Buhari to be interested in putting in place a succession program.
I neither did this, nor did I insinuate at any point that Buhari should pick or choose his successor as some news outlets are conjured. My overriding concern in offering my propositions was to forestall the emergence of a new iteration of recycled enemies who will once again seek to lock us into a cycle of doom and gloom at the turn of a new decade. If we have been excellent at anything in Nigeria, it has been at creating a succession pipeline of the worst of us ruling over the best of us. On my part, I remain committed to facilitating, however God enables me, the emergence of the best, the brightest, the fittest, and the most competent Nigerians across every gamut of our national life. I am more invested in discussions on the way forward and which does not address individual comments, particularly as they were in response to words I simply did not utter.
And human rights group, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has approached the Federal High Court Abuja to order the 36 state governors to publish details and breakdown of payment of pensions to each of the former governors and other ex-officials. The lawsuit, filed on January the 10th, singles out the former governors and other officials that have received pensions and who have served as or are serving members of the National Assembly. According to SERAP, only the Delta State Governor, Ms. Ifeanyi Okowa, and Governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, responded to its FOI request dated January the 9th. SERAP's suit is coming on the heels of the judgment delivered last week by Justice Oluremi Oguntoyibo of the Federal High Court, Lagos, ordering the Attorney General of the Federation to challenge the legality of the state's pension laws permitting former governors and other ex-public officials to collect such pensions. And to security, which remains a major concern for most Nigerians. Governors of crisis-ravaged areas in the north are particularly worried about these activities. This is the focal point of the meeting between the governors of Benue and Nasarawa State in Lafia, the state capital, earlier today. The meeting, which was also attended by members of security and traditional councils of both states, bordered on issues like the anti-grazing law and the withdrawal of Operation World Stroke from the region.
Just because open grazing is allowed in Nasarawa doesn't make Nasarawa also lawless. That we should do the open grazing in line also with our law. We cannot allow people to run into other people's farms and create hardships for the farmers in the name of open grazing. So even though we accommodate people here, we also try to emphasize that clearly, we are not doing that in order to breach any security. We have also written to appeal against the withdrawal of wild stroke, because we strongly believe the presence of the officers is adding a great value for our own security. So we have written, I have personally spoken with the Chief of Army Staff about this, and they asked us to write, and we have written. And I think nearly all the states affected have also written.
His Benue State counterpart, Mr. Samuel Otom, also emphasizes the need to maintain peace between both states.
We remain committed to the peace that is existing now, and anything that we subtract to the peace that we're having, we're going to work against it. But anything that will add value to the development of the peace initiative, we are fully in support. We'll do it. I want it to be noted that without peace, there can be no meaningful development. It's only when we have peace. Even when we fight, it is only when we sit back on the round table and discuss and find ways that will lead us to peace that can find a solution.
In part 2, after the break, we'll have more on the commemoration of 50 years after the Biafra War with Channels Television's in-house data analyst, Babajide Ogunsowo.